Hey, 100 subs! Finally, after keeping this YouTube channel for 1,050 days, I have finally reached 100 subs, and I will be making two 100 subscriber special videos, and stay tuned to check it out. Yep, it's about to be 9 p.m. I haven't eaten dinner yet, but I still have to do this list, and that is the top 100 best albums of the decade. Now, I have already talked about the honorable mentions and all the albums from top 100 to top 56. So in this video, I'm only going to cover top 55. And also, only one entry per artist, so not a single artist is going to dominate the list. So here we go. At number 55, we have Perfume Genius with Put Your Back End to It, which is a short but really wholesome, lovely, touching, and emotional micro pop album that just puts you in tears. And at number 54, we have MGMT with Congratulations. Screw the haters, because this album is a fantastic album and my favorite MGMT album personally, because it is such a freaky, weird, unapologetic experimental pop album that has a variety of different tracks with different tones, the very loud and angry Brian Eno, but then we have the multifaceted epic Siberian breaks. Of course, we have Flash Delirium. It's Working is also a fantastic track, and overall just great instrumentals and very, very creative songwriting. And at 53, my favorite King Giz album, and it is Nonagon Infinity. So King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard comes out with a crap ton of albums this decade, or last decade technically, but Nonagon Infinity is, I think, their best album, given how wild and enraged that the album is. But not only that, it's called Nonagon Infinity in that it has 9 tracks, and you can literally loop the album over and over and over again. You can actually loop this album forever, and it will still sound smooth. But not only that, the very intense drums and the very wild and crazy guitar riffs, the really sharp songwriting, it's all there and it's fantastic. And at number 52, I am giving it to YG with Still Brazy, a high quality West Coast hip hop album that has some really nice, gritty, grimy beats, some really animated, amazing flows by YG, impressive features as well, and overall, just a really solid and cohesive album. And, of course, the socio-politically charged lyrics, the conscious lyrics on this album is something that I appreciate a lot as well. And at number 51, I have to give it to Björk with Volnakura, an odd, weird, experimental art pop album that is also simultaneously a breakup album. And Icelandic art pop singer-songwriter Björk truly delivers some of the most intricately produced and well-written tracks in the decade. Anyways, at number 50, top 50 best albums of the decade, we have Sufjan Stevens with Kyary and Lowell, one of the 3 sad albums of the decade. My friend is texting, where Sufjan Stevens make this album in honor to his mother, who passed away before the release of this album. And the way Sufjan Stevens handles mortality on this album is really, really beautiful, gorgeous, touching, moving, and powerful. He doesn't handle mortality in a really epic, dramatic way, but instead from tiny things, from memories, from emotions, and small feelings, and we just get a set of really beautiful and powerful ballads that really move. And at number 49, I have to give it to Clarence Clarity with No Now, one of my favorite pop albums of the decade, and judging by this album cover, you can already tell that it is going to be a very eccentric, weird, oddball pop album because not only do we have some really sugary, sticky melodies on this album, but the production is crazy. It's all over the place. It's glitchy, it's futuristic, it's strange and odd and distorted and compressed, but it still sounds so catchy and so fun and versatile. And at number 48, I am giving it to Frank Ocean with Blonde. Frank Ocean, angelic vocals, nobody can deny that. But not only that, we have some of the most solid and moving songwriting on this album, some of the best alternative R&B in the entire decade, and also just a really solid set of tracks that really put you in a state of trance. Some really accessible instrumentals as well that I really, really appreciate. And at number 47, I am giving it to Horrendous with Idol, and it is an extremely ugly death metal album, but it still has its ups and downs. The guitar riffs on this thing, they are monstrous, they can be menacing, they can be small but later on burst. It's like a roller coaster. The growls are raw and organic and angry, and it's a really impressive metal album overall. And at 46, gotta give it to Little Sims with Grey Area, all the way from UK. We have a very elegant and cohesive UK rap album with some of the finest and most gorgeous instrumentals here, but also some of the most solid bars that are sometimes sassy, sometimes personal, sometimes touchy-feely. Just a lot of versatility when it comes to songwriting, lyrics, and instrumentals as well. And at number 45, yes, I love this one a lot, and that is Algiers with The Underside of Power, soul / post-punk fusion band, Algiers, coming out with The Underside of Power, which comments on the socio-political climate of the entire world right now, how toxic the system can be, with a set of really amazing songs that have a lot of versatility. We have ballads here that are sad and sour. We have crazy wild ragers here, and then we have the groovy, danceable Death March, the amazing drums by Matt Tong, the title track. Oh my gosh, it's dark, it's grim, it's emotional, it's full of ups and downs, it's intense. I absolutely love it. And at 44, one of the most creative rap albums of the decade, gotta give it to Clipping with CLPPNG, or Clipping, or however you like to call it, self-titled, hip-hop, experimental hip-hop trio Clipping with this album, with some of the clickety-clackety, skittery, most electronic-oriented hip-hop beats you can ever find in the decade that are very experimental, amazingly produced. There's this polished, clean tone to this album which makes it refreshing. David Diggs' amazing flows and amazing speedy performances are breathtaking, literally breathtaking. It just takes his breath away, but he still raps. He raps like a monster. And at number 43, I'm giving it to the Polish black metal band, actually death metal here, with Behemoth, the Satanist. Obviously a satanic metal band, and a satanic metal album here, and they're serious. But despite being extremely angry and aggressive and wild on this thing, the songs here are actually somewhat catchy. Catchy death metal. I'm serious, yeah. Bombastic drums, organic growls from Nurgle, overall really solid metal album. And at 42, I am giving it to another really friggin' great album, and that is Women with Public Strain. I absolutely love this album. I go back to this album from time to time because, I have a thing for post-punk. But this post-punk album is unlike any other post-punk album because it is subdued. It is subtle. It is very wintry. You can really feel like you're in a blizzard with a lot of snow, with the distant, muffled vocals and the somewhat lo-fi production of the instrumentals. Yet, the songwriting here, the chord progressions on this album, they are nostalgic, they can be sweet, and they can be also somewhat freaky and disorienting and disjointed, but overall a really solid musical project. And at number 41, I am giving it to Flying Lotus with Cosmogramma. Yeah, amazing electronic producer. We have a soul, jazz, hip hop infused, crazy, wonky, flashy, here and there, everywhere electronic album with its squawking, scratching sound effects, bouncing beats, a lot of amazing production here, yet every single track offers something special, something different, and it's such a fantastic record, a true magnum opus for Flying Lotus indeed. Anyways, at number 40, I am giving it to A Tribe Called Quest with We Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service, the last album from the famed East Coast hip-hop rap collective, A Tribe Called Quest. Rest in peace, Five Dog. Amazing performances from all the members, especially for Q-Tip and his really slick, soft, but smart, intelligent production. And it is a double album. But every single track offers something different. The instrumentals can be futuristic, it can be grimy, it can be catchy and soulful. The features here, the Andre 3000 feature, the Kendrick feature, yes. Hell yes. But then we have the very well-written lyrics, witty bars, funny one-liners, and the rhyming schemes, man. That is why I love East Coast hip-hop. Anyways, at number 39, from the UK, PJ Harvey, Let England Shake. This time commenting on English, or more like British politics, how corrupt they can be. Also, mortality, war. Cutesy vocals, check. Amazing, flavorful instrumentals, check. Funny, goofy, stiff backup vocals, check. All in all, an amazing album with a lot of personality. Sometimes the song can be very clear and beautiful. Sometimes can be grim, and sometimes even goofy. Just a lot of personality and charisma. And at number 38, I am giving it to Big Crit with Forever Is a Mighty Long Time. Also a double album. Also a fantastic southern rap album. Big Crit comes out with his best set of tracks yet, with a banger sometimes, soulful rap sung song sometimes, but overall he advocated human decency on this album, which is just really friggin' fantastic, especially coming from a double album, a rap album. Human decency, it's just such a strong theme in this album, and it's very beautiful, I have to say. And at number, I have already lost count. I'm a genius. 37, yes. Parquet courts, I'm wide awake. And this is one of the most fun, groovy post-punk albums with a toyish edge of the entire decade, I have to say. Some really fun performances, of course, some quick, rapid songs, of course, but also beautiful, poetic, yet conscious lyrics, and a lot of charismatic songwriting. Total Football is such a replayable, refreshing opening for the album. The title track is fantastic, and the last track, Tenderness, is just a very sweet, smart ending to the album. And at number 36, oh yes, Radiohead, A Moon-Shaped Pool, my favorite band, Radiohead, coming out with their saddest album today. Well, not exactly. Not in a way it's depressed like the Bends, or just straight up broken and dysfunctioning and even more depressed like OK Computer, but more just lost, aimless, and subtle. You can really feel broken, heartbroken when listening to this album, because there are a lot of slow burns on this album, but they all grow on you exponentially. All of the tracks here, they have high quality, they offer interesting new chord progressions, offer amazing performances. Tom York's vocals, he ages like fine wine. And then we have Johnny Greenwood's orchestral instrumentals here. The production, Yes! Just a set of amazing tracks, really. Daydreaming hits my heart. Burn the Witch really burns. Dex Dark, it's dark. And Full Stop, it's intense. True Love Waits, oh, I'm being moved to tears. Anyways, 35, The Knife, Shaking the Habitual. Actually, 35 and 36 can switch places because I realized that I actually like the Radiohead album slightly more than that Knife album, but you have to admit, The Knife, Shaking the Habitual is incredibly well produced and recorded, an extremely weird, oddball, versatile art pop ambient album. We have long ambient giants here, but then we have some freaky, angry, noisy pop on this album. A Tooth for an Eye is a great track. Some freakish screams as well, and overall just a very creative and innovative and refreshing art pop album. And 34, Otobokebiba with Itekama Hits. Wow. This album, presented by a quartet, a hardcore punk rock quartet from Japan, and the music on this album is wild. It's super noisy and loud and unapologetic and aggressive. It's borderline metal, but yet the instrumentals, they're organic. They're raw. The screams, they all scream together. They're like chants. They're like cheerleader chants, but yet they're all catchy. The riffs are pummeling. The drums are bombastic. It's all very loud and exciting and forward-thinking. Most importantly, it really moves you forward. And at number 33, Ariel Pink Pom Pom, where Ariel Pink comes out with his strongest and most creative and most eccentric set of art pop songs as well, that has a lot of different influences that are super duper well utilized. The fun personality is present on this album. And at number 32, I'm giving it to Julia Holter with Have You in My Wilderness. It is pristine, it is gorgeous, it is heavenly and angelic. There is something about this album that just makes it shine and glow very elegantly and beautifully. Of course, we have Julia's very cute, innocent vocals, but then we have the very gorgeous, cleanly produced instrumentals here, and the Baroque pop style of this album is lovely. And at 31, one of my favorite metal albums of the decade, I return to this album from time to time, and that is Liturgy's HAQQ. Not an album for black metal purists, because this album, it's crazy, okay? Harps, strings, recorders, any weird instruments you can find, all fused into this epic, dramatic, cinematic, transcendental black metal album that just has a lot of chugging riffs, but also gorgeous moments. Anyways, at number 30, two kings in hip-hop, Freddie Gibbs, The Thug, and Madlib, genius hip-hop producer, coming together with Pinata with a set of extremely well-produced, creatively written, amazingly performed rap songs. And at number 29, yes, he won a fucking Grammy. I'm so happy for him. Tyler, the Creator, Igor, arguably one of the best breakup albums of the decade, one of the most creative albums of the decade. This album crosses genres of rap, soul, neo-soul, pop, maybe a bit of R&B, and electronic, the lo-fi production. Yes, it's fantastic. The personality of Igor is vivid. It's really refreshing as well. And the hidden features in this album, ingenious. Tyler, the Creator, a true artist indeed. 28, Idols, Joy is an act of resistance. Goes and it goes and it goes, goes and it goes and it goes. Joe Talbot goes friggin' wild on this album. The angry, raw performances on this album is just really blood pumping, and I love that tone, but more importantly, it's forward thinking. It's uplifting. We have some really positive messages about embracing minorities and being friendly on this album. Also, this album goes against toxic masculinity, and I love that when it's being explored in music. And of course, the instrumentals, they're crisp, they're fantastic. These songs here, they are catchy, but yet at the same time, they feel new. They feel original. And at number 27, gotta give it to Brockhampton with the Saturation Trilogy. Yes, 3 hours of musical material, Saturations 1, 2, and 3. And for all of the songs here, we get some of the most refreshing, intelligently written, most wholesome, sweet rap songs you can ever find in the decade. But also, it can be somewhat witty, cheeky, somewhat naughty, nasty, filthy, some bangers here and there. A lot of amazing performances from each of the members as well. Merlin Woods, Kevin. Anyways, at number 26, my favorite electronic album is it? Well, technically no, but still one of my favorites. AAL, or Against All Logic, with 2012 to 2017. Nicholas Jar, all the way from Chile here, comes out with the most amazingly produced electronic dance album of the decade. Every single track is danceable, it's groovy. Some tracks are more wild, some tracks are more calculated, but all of the tracks here, they're tight, man. They're friggin' tight. And at number 25, yes, Onda Tropica, self-titled, where over 40 Latin musicians come together to form this epic double album, all the way from hip-hop to Latin jazz to Latin pop. We just have a colorful range of musical styles on this very Latin flavored album, and I just feel like this is an important benchmark for Latin music in the decade. It's just a really fantastic album with a lot of amazing teamwork, I have to say. Tienes amor, tienes razón. Anyways, and at 24, gotta give it to Car Seat Headrest with Teens of Denial. And Will Toledo, frontman of the band, comes out with a set of emotional, powerful tracks on this album that really touches the youthful part of my heart, actually my entire heart, because right now I guess I'm still an adolescent, so I really relate to the sound of this album, and just the very genuine lyrics of the album is amazing. It has a lot of heart. I love the really genuine, heartful performances on this album. The very sweet lonesome guitars are fantastic, and we just get a set of really witty and smartly written tracks that I really enjoy, and really relatable, I have to say. Even though I don't necessarily relate to the lyrical themes, but sonically, yes. 23, Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork. Arguably one of the best rock albums of the decade, coming out with hard-hitting grooves, really amazing, refreshing chord progressions, muscular performances, and it's just such a cohesive rock album. Almost every single track hits as hard, has as much flavor. And at 22, I'm giving it to Fiona Apple with the Idler Wheel, driver of the wheel. It has a long album title. But this is one of the most well-written, I guess, indie folk / pop album of the decade. Fiona Apple's wild range of vocals is awesome on this album. Some of the best instrumentals here. We get some stripped back songs here, emotional ballads, some interesting chords on this album as well, and it's just a really cohesive album overall. And at 21, another album that I just really love, extremely criminally underrated, and that is Proto-Martyr with Relatives and Descent, post-punk album of the decade. That's it. I'm calling it post-punk album of the decade. This album, from the first track to the last track, I love all of the tracks. I mean, yes, some tracks are a little weaker, but still, every single track is as grim, cold, but yet progressive and always moving, always refreshing and unique post-punk of the decade. The guitar grooves on this thing are sticky, they're memorable, the performances are just very gritty and dark. Actually, the album ending, it's really dark and messed up. We have depressing moments on this album, some quiet moments here, some weird moments here as well. Absolutely love it. Anyways, at number 20, I am giving it to Ghost with Meliora, a satanic metal band from Sweden this time, coming out with a set of really intelligent, somewhat catchy, and extremely sharp metal tracks. Yeah, Spirit, great song. Cerise is the metal anthem of the decade. I love the aesthetic of the band themselves as well, just a lot of personality. Anyways, at number 19, I have to give it to Tim Hecker with Versions, which is the most beautiful and heart-wrenching ambient albums of the decade. And even though it's ambient, it's rather noisy for an ambient album because it has these very beautiful, crystalline, pristine, glassy, obelisk-like instrumentals that are just so crunchily and crispily produced, distortions, compressions, fine-tuned musical palettes that gives vivid imagery, and it's one of the most special and unique musical experiences I've had in this decade listening to this album. And at number 17, I am giving it to Richard Dawson with 2020. And wow, Richard he's a prophet because on this album he portrays the future as dystopian, as this grim world, even though the future is 2020, which is happening now. And he's right, 2020 sucks ass, okay? It's terrible. He really he's on the money. He's on the money right here. But seriously, we have a set of really amazingly, even poetically written tracks here. The lyrics, they really play an essential part on this album. Richard Dawson's amazing falsettos here, fantabulous. And we get some of the best freak folk on the entire album with amazing instrumental and production choices, a lot of different styles of music coming together very smoothly on one single album. Amazing album, I have to say. Anyways, at number 17, also a great metal album. Damn. Altar of Plagues, Teeth, Glory, and Injury. Ooh. The album title, it's like a stab. It's like a knife stab. But yeah, it's such a weird, experimental, freaky, clanky, dysfunctioning, malformed, atmospheric black metal album with, again, musical styles from different genres, but all fusing to one really cohesive, special, unique, and artistic black metal album that really puts you in a really special state of mind. At 16, I am giving it to Josh Tillman, aka Father John Misty, with Pure Comedy, where we have a large album where he sort of comments on the American government and the socio-political climate in the world as a whole, and very intelligently so, because he not only does he poke fun of the government and the people around him, he pokes fun at himself a little bit as well. Very self-aware, very smart. The charisma of this album is just oozing. A lot of really well-written ballads as well, comforting, beautiful pianos that are very stellar and intergalactic sometimes. Very beautiful, moving, gorgeous ballads here and there, and just an album that really leaves me in a really good taste. Not necessarily sweet, because it can be kind of grim, but Father John Misty, totally talented musician, totally talented songwriter. Anyways, we're at the top 15 here. At number 15, the most important dream pop duo of all times, Beach House Teen Dream, coming up with a set of very solid dream pop tracks. Of course, living up to the label of dream pop, we get some really dreamy instrumentals here that are surreal, to be honest. Surreal, sweet, lovely, beautiful, gorgeous vocals from Victoria. And every single track is just as catchy, just as bright, but also not as explosive, but rather smooth and, again, dreamy, enchanting. I need to use that word more often. And at 14, another one of the big three sad albums of the decade, and that is Mount Eerie with A Crow Looked at Me. Phil Elverum, incredibly talented, humble musician who used to go by the name of The Microphones, now Mount Eerie, and after the passing of his ex-wife, he made an album, and it's about death. And he approached it in a very lo-fi, in a very quiet, stripped back, bare bones, skeletal way, and the result hits you right in the heart. Every single track is powerful enough, but yet quiet enough to just move you to silent tears. You can really feel the pain that he has, but instead of portraying death as this really weird, abstract, intangible thing, death is incredibly real, incredibly straight up and upfront on this album. And it's just something that I've never seen before, never heard before in music, and it's also one of the most memorable musical experiences I've had in the decade. And at number 13, rap collab. Kanye and Kid Cudi coming together as Kitsy Ghosts with the self-titled album. Yes, it's a short album, but every single track offers something so colorful and vivid and creative, and every single track shows a different color, a different style, tone, tempo. Kid Cudi really improved exponentially after Speed and Bullet, and comes out with some of the most sassy, cold-blooded flows, yet Kanye actually has some well-written lyrics here, and the production, the sampling is genius. It's honestly ingenious on this album, and it's just an experimental rap album, an artistic and colorful rap album that the hip-hop industry so desperately needs. And at number 12, also a rap album that the industry needs, Danny Brown, Atrocity Exhibition. Danny Brown with his very crazy, kooky, eccentric personality, and on this album his personality shines alongside with the crazy wild beats and crazy wild instrumentals. But of course we have versatility on this album, and still it is one of the most refreshing and unique rap albums of the decade. We have dreary bits, we have bangers, we have a bit of everything, and it all comes together on this album. And at number 11, sorry, you're not in the top 10, but hey, top 11, that's crazy. Kamasi Washington with The Epic, and the album lives up to its title. It's an epic jazz album, 3 hours of gigantic jazzy material, ranging from spiritual jazz to vocal jazz. The jazz improvs on this album, they're fiery, they're on flames, they're speedy and maniacal. The slower parts here, they are romantic, they're lovely, and it's just such an epic and cinematic jazz album sometimes. Just full force blasting in all directions sometimes. You just have to admit, Kamasi Washington is a jazz genius here. And then we have the top 10, okay? The top 10 best albums of the decade. Now, picking 10 albums to be in the top 10 is extremely difficult because these albums have to be versatile, yet they have to be cohesive. They need to respect the past and have past influences, but yet at the same time, they need to push the musical industry forward. They need to be futuristic. They need to be unique and refreshing. The production needs to be great. The lyrics need to be great. The performances need to be great. The melodies need to be great as well. 10 albums. Here we go. Number 10, Kanye West. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Yes, one of the most culturally impactful rap albums of all times, not only in the decade, but all times, period. This album is truly a gem because every single track is amazingly sampled, great performances, lots of features, and it's just a very bold and creative album for hip-hop. Not only so, Kanye West does his very impressive artistic left turn all of a sudden on this album, and it just worked fantastic for him. It worked wonders with flying colors, and what else can I say? But every single track is just really solid. And then at number 9, I am giving it to LCD Sound System with This Is Happening. Dance, electronic, pop, LCD Sound System, where an entire collection of instrumentalists and musicians plus James Murphy as the main brain comes out with one of the catchiest, slickest, funniest, wittiest, but also the most impactful dance electronic albums of the decade. The beat drop on the first track to the very wholesome, fluttery beats on the last track are all fantastic. Every single track brings something different. Drunk Girls is truly drunk. It's crazy, it's wild, but then we have something stiff and calculated and mechanical and industrial like One Touch. And we get some really legitimately funny and witty lyrics here, but we also get some wholesome lyrics on this album as well. And every single piece of instrumental are super duper well produced, and they all layer on top of one another so impressively. I have to put it in the top 10. Number 8, Legend, David Bowie, Black Star. And it is also an album about death. David Bowie released this album shortly before his passing. And after he passed away, this album has this enchanting, magical, eerie edge that makes this album even stranger and even more special. It's almost like there's some sort of enchantment to this album. But seriously, every single track is freaky, glam rock, and David Bowie in his creative peak once again, truly ending off his career and his life with a spark, with a very gigantic, magical spark, I have to say. And there's something so dreamy and experimental, freaky, surreal, and intangible about this album that I just absolutely love. The title track is this weird, multifaceted epic that is one of the best of the decade. And then we have heartbreaking, just tragic, downtrodden tracks here. And we have freaky, repetitive, charismatic tracks here. And the whole album overall just has a lot of different colors, but they all come together to form this really grim, but also otherworldly and alien and somewhat beautiful even conclusion about mortality that makes this album so friggin' powerful and magical. Then at number 7, Sun Kill Moon, Benji. Also one of the big 3 sad albums of the decade. Mark Kozelek comes out with a set of tracks, and all of them are quiet folk ballads. And on each track, he explores about 1 to 3 deaths of different people around his lives. And on each track, he tells a very compelling story. The narrative on this album is very heavy, but still it doesn't take away from the very beautiful, heart-touching, gut-wrenching instrumentals on this album. The very sour and bitter guitars there. Carissa is heartbreaking. The Richard Rammers track is intense and anxiety-inducing, and the album ending, Ben's My Friend, is a very nice jazzy epilogue to the album. Literally from this album on, every album that I'm going to be mentioning on this list is pretty much perfect, pretty much flawless. Every single track is just as great, starting from Benji. Because at number 6, we have Ice Age with Plowing into the Fields of Love, a punk rock band from Denmark. And even though Danish is not Elias's is Elias' first language and English is his second, the lyrics here are incredibly poetic and well written and very vivid for some reason. I really don't know why. And then we have the instrumentals on this album. Every single track is as powerful, as punchy as possible, and truly versatile as well. I mean, we have some really sad songs here like Pissing Against the Moon and Glassy Eyed, and then we have wild, enraging, crazy bangers like Abundance and Simony. The Lord's Favorite is a really nice, catchy, country hillbilly flavored punk rock track, and the album ending is fantastic. And we get some really bold instrumental choices here, the iconic sloppy performances. And instead of sort of dampening the quality of the music, the sloppy performances actually give so much personality to the music on this album. I am honestly impressed. But not only so, every single instrumental here they slam. The band members they really play their instruments to the fullest on this album, but yet bringing out some of the most colorful, most vibrant tones and styles on punk rock yet. Anyways, top 5: Fleet Foxes, Helplessness Blues. And it is one of the best, if not the best, folk album of the decade, because we have a set of sincere, heartwarming, wholesome, beautiful, gorgeous folk tracks. The vocals are absolutely beautiful and angelic, and some of the chord progressions here, the way the guitars sort of twist themselves and transform, just creates almost medieval-like imagery and vibes, and it's medieval tinged folk albums like this that I really enjoy. And even though it's a folk album that really throws back to the old sounds, Robin Pecknold and co. isn't afraid to experiment a little bit, puts in some weird twists and turns to make this album and decorate this album into something really special, into something cinematic, something extremely beautiful and artistic. And there are lots of tracks here that are multifaceted, and it's just very creative, and every single moment in this album is as sincere, as powerful as well. I mean, you can really see the human beauty in this album, which is amazing, I have to say. Number 4, Death Grips, The Powers That Be. My favorite Death Grips album is not The Money Store, it's The Powers That Be. It's a double album that I think is one of the most experimental and out there friggin' albums of the decade. The ideas, the musical ideas that Death Grips comes up with is never done before, I have to say. Have you ever heard someone literally chop up and litter Björk vocal samples all over the entire first half of an album? Here you go. Skittery, schizophrenic, weird, but yet very solid, cohesive, and still somehow work together. And then we have the second part to the album, Jenny Death, and oh my god, it's wild, it's insane, it's super intense, extremely aggressive and angry. The guitar riffs here, they are menacing, they rumble and crumble. The beats here, they hit hard, and yeah, monstrous performances. In Animate Sensation, friggin' banger. On GP, triumphant, best song of the decade. Yes, the tracks, Billy Nut, really fantastic. Black Quarterback, wow. This album is just so thrilling, so enthralling, so blood boiling, adrenaline pumping. It's a really crazy album, but yet every single track comes together extremely impressively. And I just have to say, Death Grips, favorite band of the decade. Number 3, Daughters. You won't get what you want. If you've remembered my 2018 year-end list, you know that I freak out when I talk about this album because I just fucking love this album so much. I mean, this is the kind of noise rock album that I really sign up to. It is dark, and I don't use this word often, but it is friggin' dark, man. It's messed up. It's twisted, and is tortured, and it's breaking itself apart. You can really feel the entire album just crumbling on its own self when it's playing because of how ferocious and how straight up intense some of the tracks on this album are. They're on fire, they're on flames. The Flaming Man, literally on fire. The Ocean Song is narrative heavy with its disorienting drum fills. The album opener has its loud, dense drones, and the bombastic drums are just breaking my heart when I'm listening to it, melting my brain. The beautiful, angelic guitar chords on Satan in the Way. By the way, the song is 6 minutes and 66 seconds long. Wow. The anxiety-inducing second track, really crazy. The album ending is apocalyptic. It's apocalyptic. The echoey, nocturnal sounds on Less Sex, and the extremely dark and depressing and grim and dystopian Daughter on this album is super underrated, and overall every single track offers something harrowing, frightening, psychotic, and it's just this extremely powerful and horrifying, terrifying, harrowing noise punk album that I think will become a classic in the near future. Number 2. You know what's my top 2. Everybody knows what's my top 2 at this point. Swan's To Be Kind. Come on. Another double album. Yes. But 10 tracks, and every single track friggin' perfect. And this isn't noise punk, rather it is experimental rock, and I don't think rock music will hit such a weird but also at the same time powerful heights anymore. This album is so powerful. It has the power of the sun. Literally a 34-minute track in this album, and it is this epic titan that concentrates the power of the sun and just shines a beam into your ears and fill you with energy that you've never felt before, but it's just so spiritually gratifying. We have actually dark moments on this album that just make your skin crawl, that just sends chill to your spines. We have menacing, monstrous screams and screeches from Michael Gira, which is just so animated, so violent and raw. This album appreciates grossness, ugliness, grotesque things, grotesque art, and it just makes you appreciate the ugliness and the brokenness of things, and makes you salivate for such ugly, raw, and broken sounds. And the album ending just leaves you completely empty. It just sucks the life force out of you. It just draws everything from your soul. The performances on this thing is crazy. It's mind blowing. And every single track, man, the layers of instrumental, the building of tension, everything is just rock music at its absolute heights in this decade. And you all know what's my number 1 spot. Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly. Fuck. Yes! So great. Oh my, I'm so baffled by how great this album is. I can't really find a flaw in this album. Kendrick Lamar is an artistic genius, and this album is nothing short of a masterpiece. Every single track offers a narrative, something poetic, something beautiful, something funny, something witty, something serious, something stern, something empowering, something powerful. The angry, raw, the blacker the berry is blunt and wild. And then we have These Walls, which is very sexual, lustful song that's just so smooth. And then we have gritty, funny, scratchy bangers like King Kunta. We have jazzy, laid back, awesome rap songs like Alright. We have some catchy songs here and there that are sweet and lovely. Something personal, something more subtle and slow, but still hits you right in the heart. And Kendrick just deconstructs hip hop on this album and make hip hop something so fluid, something so creative that is never done before. He just deconstructs songs into different pieces here and there. We have intros, outros, bits of interludes, bits of instrumental detour here and there. We have a literal Tupac and Kendrick Lamar conversation at the end that never actually happened in real life, but it's there and it's amazing. We have this poem that keeps on being recited over and over again, and it's a very powerful and well-written poem. And there's just something so beautiful and artistic about this album that just makes this album the best of the best of the best of this friggin' decade. And I can't stop complimenting on how amazing this album is. Till this day, I am amazed. After listening to this album, I'm just shocked. I mean, the track You is dark and messed up. The cracked vocals, oh my gosh. I is a friggin' banger. I love myself. I mean, the crazy, speedy, wild performances. Oh, yes. And every single track, man. How Much a Dollar Cost is a nocturnal, grim, self-reflecting rap song. I get why Obama loves the song. Kendrick, man, you're a genius. You're amazing. Keep making music. I fully support you. So, what's your favorite album of the decade? Comments below, let me know. Thanks for 100 subscribers, and thanks for all the music. And I will go on despite 2020 sucking. So yeah, thanks for watching.